Any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected.
You know, the only other adversary of ours who's anywhere near as good as the Russians is China. So why should Russia have all the fun? And since Russia is clearly backing Republicans, why don't we ask China to back us?
I hereby tonight ask China.
That's right. And not only that, China, if you're listening, why don't you get Trump's tax returns? I'm sure our media would richly reward you.
Every American deserves to know that when they cast their vote, that vote will be counted accurately in a system, and that is to make that system secure, one where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard. Tonight, I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure. This evidence shows that the election system we have dangerously exposes and really exposes like levels never thought possible to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you, the American people, our beautiful, our great American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House Government Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings. We are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov. Go check it out. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing.
What's going on, everyone? Saucer Keeney here today. As you saw from the intro, I want to get more into this, but liberal bias strikes again, right? And I talked about how liberal bias in the media specifically, they do these fake fact check, when all the fact check does is cast doubt on statements and assertions made by public figures, mostly to Republicans, mostly to Donald Trump, right? And CBS, right? Imagine this. These media networks don't want to share or air the thing live for you to decide for yourself whether Trump has some merit into, having these doubts, these disclosures. As you saw from the intro, I showed you Democrat Hillary Clinton, Democrat Joe Biden, making assertions that, hey, it's possible for foreign nations to kind of interfere in our election, right? And then Trump's reaffirming that. He said, yeah, there's some vulnerabilities in our infrastructure. We want to shore that up, right? He's begging to pass the SAVE Act because he wants to make our elections more secure. As a nationalist, how can I be mad about that? If you're trying to make improvements in our system, you're trying to protect the integrity of our system, I'm open to that idea. But for some reason, the mainstream media is not open to it at all. Instead, they're melting down, right? Telling you that if you're a watcher of CNN, MSNBC, what other left-wing network? I got more for you after the video segment. All of them say, well, we won't air it live. Instead, we'll tell you what happens. This is the ultimate trust me, just trust me, bro. Like, this is the ultimate trust me, bro moment that the liberal media is trying to play here.
A quick reminder to our viewers, we'll be watching tonight's presidential address and listening to what the president says tonight. But we're not going to take it live, as we've been discussing. That's because this president, sadly, has a history of misleading and in some cases simply false statements on what we've been talking about tonight, election security and integrity. Also, the White House earlier today said he would be showing newly classified documents. So we want to make sure that we have time to review those documents, talk to experts about them, contextualize whatever he says or shows before airing it. But if there is news, we will bring it to you ASAP.
It's impossible for us to fact check each thing that was said, but on the specific thing in regard to China that you raised, the president was informed when he was president in his first term in a classified memo on January 7th, both the assessments regarding interference, and that was also public prior to that date. So he was aware, and we reported on this network at the time in regard to the assessments as to which foreign countries favored which election candidates. He seems to be alleging there that China actively tried to undermine him and even referenced wanted to get him to resign at one point. Ahead of this, I did reach out to Chinese officials who were already prepared with a prebuttal here. I'll read it to you. The quote is, "China has long adhered to the principle of non-interference in others' internal affairs. The U.S. election is an internal matter, its outcome determined by the American people. China never and will never interfere in the presidential elections of the United States." Now, what was assessed by the intelligence community and made public as recently as I'm looking at April 2020. I want to read for you what was in the National Intelligence Council. It said Chinese intelligence officials analyzed multiple states' election voter registration data to conduct public opinion analysis on the 2020 U.S. general election. So public opinion analysis is what the U.S. intelligence community said the Chinese were doing. The president is alleging something far more aggressive there in actively undermining his presidency. And I think, Tony, the question for tomorrow will continue to be, and so what are you going to do about it?
Imagine that. So CNN, CBS News have alleged that, oh, one of the reasons why we have to watch it for you, filter it for you, why we don't want to play it live is that Donald Trump has a track record of making misleading statements, right? One, COVID, the origins of COVID, it comes from China. They fact checked that. They said, oh my God, we can't listen to him. When he was calling the Russian collusion thing a hoax, CNN constantly try to reference, what was that fallacy that I mentioned earlier in the video? The fallacy of authority. You saw from the intro. Oh, Chinese officials said they didn't do this. That's as credible as when they were when Nick Shirley went viral for the fraud in Minneapolis, and CNN reporting called the people and asked them, are you guys doing fraud? And they said, no, we're not doing any fraud. Like, come on. And I find it hilarious about the track record, right? Their claim is that they can't show Trump's speeches live because he has a track record of saying misleading statements, giving his opinion, of making accusations, which is in your right to do. They don't want to air that. But Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton essentially made the same thing on some of their platforms too, on the debate stage. But they don't want to air Trump's address. This is the fake neutrality that I'm talking about with these news networks. And I think the only people who played the speech without filtering it were News Nation, Fox News. If I remember correctly. This is crazy. Breaking. Despite the president breaking stunning news of massive Beijing hack of U.S. voter data and a massive cover-up of his election interference by FBI and CIA, CNN, ABC, and NBC blacked out on his primetime address. CBS and MSNBC cut away from it. Only News Nation's Fox News and C-SPAN covered it in full. Make it make sense. The only objective thing you can do is let people see the clips, see things for themselves. Show both angles as much as you can. But the news networks with the more resources, the little old me, than other people who speak online, they cannot do this. I gave you the clips as much full context as I can, so you can decide for yourself, and I merely give my take on it. That's it. And then you can respond in the comment section with your take or what you take away with it. And we all come across a more honest, I guess, framing about what's going on right here. Both sides already admitted, from Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, to Donald Trump, that it's possible, this is a possibility that this can happen. And the mainstream media is sitting here and telling you that, no, it's not, it's been disproven. The Chinese people said it themselves. The Chinese officials said it themselves. Why would a nation admit that? It's already known. Like, I'm gonna play a clip real quick from News Nation explaining that, hey, it's espionage. China is collecting data for espionage. And the liberals don't even want to concede that. Make it make sense. But I digress. I want to take another look at I'll give you another look at this segment here.
China is one of the biggest collectors of data on the planet. So if you take that 220 million voter rolls and you combine it with something called the SF-86, those are the security clearance applications that were compromised back in 2015, 22 million files. And then you combine it with all of the health information that's been hacked, you can really build this kind of digital composite of an individual. And you can use that for, voter registration fraud. You can use that for identity theft. And significantly, you can also use it to recruit American citizens to your efforts. So it's not just about the collection of the data around the vote. Exactly.
Right.
So with that in the background, I don't understand how the media is attempting to downplay this, right? And this is one of the reasons why many people, like a lot of these people, they should just come out with their bias, man. I'm just tired of the games. I'm just tired of the charades of the media sitting here pretending that they're not biased. But have you ever seen the media black out and not air any Democrats making speeches? Joe Biden in 2020 was talking about how the MAGA extremists are a threat to democracy. You aired that. You didn't fact check that. This is my problem, the inconsistency with the media. And then when you call out their bias and highlight how their bias hurts their credibility, hurts the knowledge distribution, right? And you wonder why so many people come away with false narratives about Donald Trump. I did a video recently of a billionaire investor. I always mess up his name. Sorry, I'm not going to butcher his name. Admitting that hey, he fell for it because of the fact that the media only covers Trump pretty much 89% of the time negatively. And that's across the board. All the research has shown CBS, CNN, MSNBC, all of them do it. And then you expect me, a voter who's informed enough to notice your sleight of hand, your framing, trying to lead me down a conclusion. Oh, here goes Trump. Trump's being crazy again. Trump's doing stuff without evidence. That's the conclusion they want you to come away with this stuff. They didn't even see the files yet. All they're doing is reacting to the address and going off of previous information. Crazy work. But, I digress because I don't know what they're scared of. But in this clip here, you're going to see them debate about the election integrity, downplaying voter fraud. Because to me, voter fraud is a big deal. But Democrats, they don't care. How many examples do we have to see of New York? Oh, if you say you're a citizen, we won't verify it. We won't check it. Right? Well, but they'll start auditing. If they audit and they catch you, that's on you. But I'm not going to stop you. In the New York election office, they're doing this for voting registration. Guy walk in, filming himself, saying he's not a citizen. He's a legal immigrant. He's on a visa, and the election office made no attempts to stop this guy from registering to vote. This is what's going on in blue cities like New York. But I digress because at the end of the day, they know from a political sense they benefit from fraud. In my estimation, this is just my opinion. I would like to hear yours in the comment section below. But without further ado, let's get into the video.
The administration continues to try to have these numbers about non-citizen voting. They've tried to say it around the SAVE Act, and this has been a thing that they have orchestrated in some sense. One, I think, major point here is that if there is voter fraud that is happening all across this country, why isn't the Department of Justice prosecuting it? Donald Trump had the White House for 4 years. If there was voter fraud that happened after the 2016 election,
there was prosecutions, but what you guys did was minimize it. Oh, that's not enough to change an election, but it's a pattern. I remember I made a video about Alabama and how much voting fraud they found. They found a bunch of non-citizens voting in that election. And they minimized it and say, oh, no, it was just only one state. It only happened in one state. It's not a problem around the board. How are you making that without any evidence backing you up on that claim to minimize the concern? It shouldn't be happening at all. Just like illegal immigration, it shouldn't be happening at all. But here you guys are minimizing it, downplaying it, highlighting your bias yet again. To me, an industry that's overwhelmingly dominated by people affiliated and associated and supporting one political party cannot objectively cover them. This is my argument for more Republicans, for the liberal media to create a new process in their, I guess, their workflow to counter argue or have a counterpoint to every statement they're making. Because at this point, it's no different from what I'm doing on the internet webs. And this is why they're losing out to a lot of these content creators online. Because of the fact that people can better, more honestly filter the authenticity of someone online than people on the news network who try to give this branding and this veneer of objectivity when they have no objectivity. No one's neutral. No one's truly neutral. If a human's behind the screen, that person is not truly neutral. Now, they can do their best to minimize instances of bias, but at the end of the day, we all have bias. And I think that's just a more honest filter to give information than to sit here and pretend that, oh yeah, we're just looking out for your best interest. We're trying to contextualize Trump's address without letting you watch it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But I digress. Let's get back into the clip.
I worked at the Justice Department. I do not recall them. I have not seen press releases of them prosecuting voter fraud. Todd Blanche does whatever the president wants, and so did Pam Bondi. Still have not seen that. In my home state of Texas, show me the proof. Why has Ken Paxton actually prosecuted, instances of voter fraud? They claim there's all this voter fraud, but where are the prosecutions is my question.
I love you, so I'm going to say this gently. That was brilliant sleight of hand, because that's not what the clip was about. It was about getting registered. Now, we agree that
But they do say it's voter fraud. At least they're saying it's leading to voter fraud.
To register as someone who is ineligible to vote is wrong. We all agree with that. Calling that out, I think, is important in giving those numbers. And this is not just coming from this White House. I mean, Oregon last year admitted that they had done exactly the same thing because the systems that they had in place was not properly mitigating those issues. We should be calling this out. We should get to a point where that is zero. I don't believe that there's been massive voter fraud that has changed any election. I also don't believe the idea that nothing can be done to strengthen the security of our elections. And I think
my argument here is that just because it's not being utilized now doesn't mean it won't be utilized in the future, right? And this is something I warn about as well, is that if you keep leaving these vulnerabilities, like how these are just not little tests to see, okay, how will they respond? Will they actually investigate this? Will people actually get prosecuted with this? If enough time goes on, if they really need it, let's say there's a really tight election and Democrats really need this, okay, let's go get a bunch of homeless people, right? The mail-in ballots, scatter all these ballots all across the country, unrequested, by the way. And you don't know if you have outdated data, outdated addresses, or you're just sending people's ballots all over the state because you want mail-in ballots across the board. How like this stuff, people are not going to weaponize and use and abuse this. And as a Republican, and that's what kind of makes me a conservative, is that you don't want an opportunity for someone to have that ability to actually sway the election in illegal means. You mean to tell me that you are so late in prosecuting election fraud that if I can get a bunch of, let's say, 10 million illegals that come to this country illegally, go to a sanctuary city and say, hey, register to vote, register to vote, register to vote. Use these people like voting pigs. Put their thing in there, and you're going to approve it because you have no check to validate whether they're eligible to vote or not. You're only going to find out after the fact, and by then the person's already in power. Who's to say someone won't use that as an opportunity to sway an election when they deem fit? And having this vulnerability open and everyone knows about it, it's only going to incentivize more of it. That's my argument for why we should nip this in the bud while it's minimal now, while it's a small problem now, while it's more easily correctable now. But they keep downplaying it because they want to disprove that Trump is out of his mind, the most secure election, right? They want to keep pushing their narrative. And that's what a lot of these debates become. It just becomes a battle of narratives. But at the end of the day, no one's disputing that voter fraud is possible in our election. Interference is not zero, right? It's a strong probability that interference people are capable of interfering in our election. Shouldn't we shore it up now? Shouldn't we all agree, yeah, I don't think it's a big deal, but let's fix it anyway because we don't want we don't want Trump to keep running on this. But no, instead they downplay it. It seems like they're more incentivized to like not let anything happen or not let anyone do anything about it because maybe in some cases they benefit from it. The same way that Trump makes a claim and I kind of agree with him here with the SAFE Act. Hey, we should put it in law that only American citizens should be in our election. We should be only counting American citizens in our voting registration, and we should check for that with voter ID. But every place with no voting ID overwhelmingly goes for the Democratic Party. Make sense. That pattern suggests conflict of interest when these Democrats on these panels, these Democratic strategists, sit here, fight tooth and nail to downplay and say, oh, no, it's not a big of a problem. Voter fraud is not big of a problem. But in all these blue states, they don't require voter ID. They don't allow, in California, in certain counties, they don't even allow you to check for voter ID. Make it make sense. But I'm supposed to believe you when you're saying you're downplaying it. Oh, okay.
This makes that point. This part should be apolitical. We should be on the same page here. We don't want people to become eligible to vote when they're not allowed to vote. Period.
So can I ask why does Donald Trump want all of these voter rolls? What is he doing with them?
Well,
what exactly?
We just found out what he's doing with them. He found over 200,000.
What is he going to do?
You purge them from the list, so we ensure that they never have the opportunity to vote.
And how do we know that Americans are not being purged? Donald Trump's administration cannot guarantee us.
You know how you can know that? Hey, pass the SAFE Act, essentially. That's what Donald Trump is saying. Donald Trump is creating an incentive. He's trying to create justification for why Americans should be even more supportive of the SAFE Act, because the SAFE Act addressed some, if not all, the issues that he brought up about the voter registration. How do you know you're purging American citizens? Well, before their vote, if we check for photo ID, photo registration, proof of citizenship, we don't have to worry about purging people by accident. You see the problem here? The Republicans have a solution for this. Now, what's the Democrats' alternative to this? Because all voters are concerned about the SAFE Act. Look, all voters agree with some proof of citizenship, some proof of voter ID across racial groups. This is a problem that Americans can get behind, but only one side, the Republican Party currently, is offering a solution, offering something to that concern. What are the Democrats' alternative to this? Oh, don't turn a blind eye. Oh, it's not a big deal. Nothing's happening. Nothing to see here, folks. Keep it pushing. It's a minimal problem. Minimize, dismiss in a condescending tone. That's what the Democrats got for you when it comes to voter integrity, election integrity concerns. But let's wrap up the video.
That Americans will not be purged from the voter file, from the files.
Well, you guys can't guarantee us that people who are in this country illegally are You're saying they're working, and I agree with you, right? I think they are working
to ensure that we have safe elections.
That
no one is
not
trying
an
to
issue
put
at
non-citizens
and I reject
on the
that.
ballot.
I recognize.
We all should reject that. We all. But this is the Democratic game, and like I already pointed out, Democrats have every incentive to minimize and dismiss this stuff. You know how many claims is going against the Democratic Party right now? Like in California, signing up homeless people to register to vote, and then vote harvesting their votes, and then ballot harvesting, and then you put it in for the candidates. Come on, man. That's trying to sway things in your favor. Now, they didn't do anything illegal per se, but I find it strange that in states like California, they ban laws trying to verify identity when it comes to voting. In certain states, in cities in the union, in the country, you got people who residents, illegals, non-American citizens are allowed to vote in local and state districts. Like, make it make sense. Should we be allowing that at all? Democrats, through their actions, are showing you that they see allowing it to be open and free with less restrictions is in their political favor. And that's something they can't deny. But, I digress. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comment section below. Why do you think the mainstream media is freaking out and melting down over the fact that Donald Trump is bringing up election integrity yet again? Do you believe that they have maybe they truly understand and know that they benefit from this, and they don't like attention on it? I'd like to hear your thoughts and perspective in the comments as well. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me on the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.